And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I apologize for the delays here, but it looks like we might have had some technical issues, some technical difficulties when it came to the setup that the players were trying to get going for their respective matches, but it looks like potentially they have been resolved. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that that is the case, and that is why we have returned from the break. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to day number 1 of the playoffs of StarsWar 11. It's been already a pretty intense day. We wrapped up with our first series. You can see it there before us. Maru versus Spirit. It did go the way of Maru 3-0. Was a strong performance from Maru. Spirit did hold his own at some times, especially game 1 was very chaotic and very back and forth. But in the end, it did go the way of Maru, and we are getting ready for our second best of 5 of the night. It is going to be GuMiho versus ShoWTimE coming up next. I think, and hopefully it won't be too long before we get things going. Again, I apologize for the downtime that we have had, and based on the downtime, based on how things have been going, I'm a little bit concerned that we're in for a long one. I'm a little bit concerned. It's been 2 hours and we've had one best of 5, and it was a 3-0 as well, and those were not long games, by the way. We had some shorter ones there, so we might be here for like another good 6 hours. I mean, we're here for it. Regardless of how long this goes, we will be here for it. As a reminder, this is a 2-day event. We have to wrap up the quarterfinals today, and tomorrow we can dive into the semis and the grand finals thereafter. 2 days of StarsWar 11 content. Do love to see it. Do love to see it. And again, I'm just really just raring to sink my teeth into some ShoWTimE and GuMiho action here. But now though, shout out to all the sponsors, all the people in the chat as well. Hope you're all enjoying yourselves. Again, tomorrow is going to be kind of the finale here of StarsWar 11, so make sure you're at least tuning into that as well. It's going to be a great weekend of StarCraft. It's great to see the crowd rocking up here for StarsWar 11. Honestly, a pretty big crowd. It's really cool to see such an impassioned Chinese community come together here for this event. We don't get offline events that often anymore, to be honest. We don't get them that often. Oh, they have wristbands! Let's go! Let's go. We don't get offline events that often anymore, so it's really cool to see that that SCBoy were able to host an offline event here for StarsWar 11. Not just that, but for the upcoming WTL as well, is really cool to see.
StarsWar 11星际
As we introduce the players.
线下赛第2场比赛，有请双方选手登场。 让我们有请 GuMiho ShoWTimE。
Here we go. We have our 2 players here. We have some of the best Protoss and Terran in the world now facing off. We did indulge ourselves in a mirror matchup earlier, but now we hear, oh, the Tal is out, Papi. The Tal is out.
星际争霸2线下赛8进4，凭热爱共传奇。
The Tal Terran has arrived. Meanwhile, Demawa is here to stand strong. As a reminder, we did have an interview earlier, and I believe we're going to have some content coming into this as well. But ShoWTimE was asked when it comes to his play style, when it comes to this more defensive style of play, what are his thoughts on it? He said he likes inflicting pain on his opponents. He wants them to suffer for as long as he can. So he's an animal. Carlos, we're getting ready here for our TVP. Look forward to it. Before the previous matchup, we did have like a little bit of an interview for our players, and we might have that here, or we might just skip it. Never mind. I mean, we had a lot of downtime, so we might just dive right into the games themselves instead. We'll see what the production team does decide. Oh, as I think they're conducting the vetoes. Yeah. Potentially, I'm not too sure. Shout out to our lovely admins, organizers, casters. I didn't know until recently, but Rex is actually observing. I did notice that the observing was actually different to Moku's typical style. So now I understand that it is Rex that's been observing here instead. So much love to Rex. Much love. The Kong himself. The king even. We are just getting ready here. Adoring those player shots. Oh, ShoWTimE. Do love to see it again. ShoWTimE, Skilless, as well as Spirit. They were eating and having dinner together the other day. A couple of days ago, they were having some Chinese hot pot with some of the crew.
I'm ShoWTimE. I'm playing for Big. I'm from Germany, and I've been playing StarCraft for 14 years now. I think GuMiho is a very good player, and he's very tricky to play against because he plays a lot of unusual stuff that I'm not used to. So it's hard to prepare for him, and yeah, he's just very tricky, to play against. I think overall, I feel pretty good about my play, but at the same time, PvP, since the patch, has changed so much, so I feel a bit shaky lately in PvP maybe. But overall, I'm happy with how I play. Although I'm struggling like a little bit mentally sometimes, I feel like. I'm not as confident as I should be in my play, I guess. So yeah, play-wise, I feel good, and mentally, I'm a bit shaky maybe. I think results-wise, I would say I want to at least beat GuMiho. I guess it's like the minimum I want to do. They will make me happy already. Other than that, I think I just want to play my best. Like if I play my best, I'm usually okay, even if I lose. I play mostly ladder, I would say, unless it's like a tournament where you have to do like preparation, maybe like Katowice, for example. Who's my best practice partner? Maybe Sarah. Like before Katowice, we played quite a bit, and I think in general, whenever there's a big tournament, I usually practice with Sarah. My team, I would say they give me a lot of freedom to do what I want, mostly. Like they don't tell me, okay, you have to do this or that. So that's nice. They pay the travel and also, of course, like a salary, which helps, of course, financially. But other than that, yeah. I mean, they give me a lot of freedom, really. Like they don't need me to do a lot of things for them all the time. So that feels quite nice. I think balance-wise, it depends who you ask, Like a lot of Zergs are complaining about Protoss, and I kind of get it. But it also feels like we haven't really had too many tournaments where Zerg has been struggling. Because like I think mainly the Baneling patch, like the one we had like half a year ago, is like the one Zergs are kind of struggling with, I guess. I wouldn't want the new unit really, but I would like the disruptor back that's like 2 patches ago, before it got like double nerfed. So like the radius bigger and like free supply. So I would love to have that back. I read it sometimes, not always. I try not to. Like when people talk about you, like when you play a tournament and there have people talk about you and you know it, you kind of want to know what they say. I mean, yeah, if it's bad comments, it makes me feel bad, to be honest. So like that's why I try not to read it. Because it's hard to deal with it, I feel like. Like it's just, people are just being negative about you, and it makes you feel bad, honestly.
There we go, just some words from ShoWTimE. Once again, it's really cool to get a little bit of insight when it comes to his team, when it comes to his practice partners, his thoughts on the patch, his thoughts on GuMiho and the tournament as well. Really nice insight there, and I'm sure we're going to be getting some words from GuMiho as well once we do head on over in his direction. Yeah, it was really nice to hear. When it comes to ShoWTimE competing here, it's going to be a close one though. I mean, GuMiho is also, I have to echo what he said as well, right? He is a very unpredictable player here, really difficult to prepare for as well. You can do as many customs as you want, but no one out there is quite like GuMiho. You have no idea what he's going to be bringing to the table. So exciting stuff. Exciting stuff, as I'm sure we're about to hear from GuMiho as well. Yo, let's go. He's got his Tal on one hand, he's got his heat pack in the other, warming up, ready for his match. I wonder how cold it is in the studio or on the stage. No, it's quite common for players to have like heat packs and to have like the fan that Mario had earlier.
안녕하세요. C9 테란 고병재라고 합니다. 사실 얼마 전까지, 패치 전까지는 제가 좀 많이 이겼던 선수라서 그렇게 어렵게 생각하진 않는데 패치 이후에 토스전이 좀 많이 어려워져서 쉽지 않을 것 같다. 요즘 토스전이 좀 많이 어렵다 생각해서 자신 없습니다. 솔직히 말하면 조금 자신 없습니다. 목표는 항상 우승이기 때문에 목표는 우승입니다. 저는 이제 장욱 선수랑 게임을 많이 했고, 나이트메어 장욱 선수랑 게임을 많이 했고, 나이트메어 장욱 선수랑 많이 하고, 그리고 신이라는 아이디를 쓰는 신이범 선수랑도 많이 하고 있습니다. 일단 들어가게 돼서 약간 제가 교통비나 이런 식비 같은 걱정을 좀 많이 덜었고, 해외대회 왔을 때도 그렇고 좀 그런 지원을 또 많이 받고 있고, 그리고 딱히 저한테 제가 게임에 집중할 수 있는 환경을 좀 잘 만들어 주는 것 같아요. 저한테 뭐 크게 요구하는 것도 없고 그냥 대회 나가서 성적만 잘 내면 되는 그런 상황이 된다는 게 너무 좋은 것 같아요. 저그가 힘들다고 생각하진 않고 저는 이번 대회나 뭐 이럴 때 최근에 이제 세라 선수가 대회를 좀 안 나오기도 했고 그리고 저그가 맵 바뀌고 나서 원래 좀 적응하는 기간이 좀 있어요. 그 기간 지나가면은 분명히 맵 적응하면 분명히 좀 잘할 것 같아서 그냥 약간 일시적인 현상이다. 저그는 안 좋다는 생각은 잘 안 드네요. 테란전은 뭐 바뀌긴 했지만 동족전이라서 크게 상관은 없었고 토스전은 확실히 좀 많이 힘들어진 것 같긴 한데 그래도 일단은 좀 더 해봐야 되지 않을까 이렇게 생각합니다. 저 약간 덧붙이자면 맵이랑 밸런스가 동시에 바뀌어가지고 확실하게 이제 밸런스에 대해서 말하기 아직은 좀 어렵다 이렇게 생각합니다. 유령 EMP 범위 살짝만 다시 버프? 그냥 그 이전 엄청 넓었을 때 말고 지금보다 한 단계 위 이전에 마지막에 너프되기 전에 그거나 아니면은 마인 좀 스플래시 범위 다시 어느 정도 롤백? 그 정도? 그거는 이제 경기가 마음에 들면 보기는 하는데 제가 해놓고 좀 마음에 안 들면 안 봅니다.
There's words from GuMiho. It's interesting that they're asking all the players about like hate comments. Like reading comments from the community. It's interesting that they're asking that. I think that's something that usually isn't really touched on. So yeah, we're just getting those thoughts from all the players at the very end of the interview. But yeah, as GuMiho, just echoing the thoughts here of what Maru said as well about TVP and how Terran seem to be struggling a little bit more. I'm curious if that's going to bear any weight in this tournament, just because there's going to be a lot of TVP, right? It's just pure Protoss and Terran, so that's kind of the matchup that we're going to be focusing on the most here when it comes to the players that we have before us. So it's going to be interesting if that does have any kind of sway or not. We have already seen the meta shift when it comes to TVP quite a bit when it comes to openers and builds. We spoke about this, we've been speaking about this for the past couple of weeks now, about how Widowmine drop openers are very much so diminished. Like, we barely see them nowadays. You see them every now and then, and whenever we do spot them, we point it out. For the most part, it's not as common as it once was, though. So it is an opener that has kind of fallen by the wayside. Which can impact like scouting early on and builds and of the sort. But honestly, like, I don't think it's been a major factor. Even though the opener itself has been less common and less popular, I feel like Terrans have been able to keep up when it comes to early game scouting and figuring out builds and able to respond to their Protoss opponents. Feels like Terrans have adapted quite well, but we'll see. We shall see as we're getting into our next series here. Side Delta going to be game 1, followed by Oceanborn, Crimson Court, Amphion, and Alkyone. Our vetoes from GuMiho are Dynasty and Goldenera. Vetoes from ShoWTimE, Post Youth, and Ghost River. A lot of the more unorthodox maps have been vetoed. Again, Post Youth, much larger map with a hybrid goal base, with the free to take natural. Free to take natural base to the goal base as well. Ghost River, very aggressive, hyper aggressive here, very short resistance map in the map pool. We have gotten rid of them. Likewise, Dynasty is crazy. We see it vetoed more often than not. I would be shocked if we see Dynasty at all in this series, and we're just getting ready here for game number 1. Ooh. Vetoes are done. Lobby is being made, and I can't wait to finally get into a game. It's been far too long. It's been far too long, Bobby. Let's go. Of course, I appreciate the player shots as well. Here we go. Players almost always use heat packs. Yeah. It's very important to warm up, to keep those fingers warm, ready to go. Oh, hello, Matrix. Hello. Shema. Here we go. Incorrect to point, toss, Terran, Zerg hate. I mean, they were quite open about it, but here we go. We're diving in and spawning in the bottom right hand corner. We have ShoWTimE for BIG. And in the top left, we have GuMiho for Cloud9. And as we dive into this series, be sure to get your bets in, because predictions in the chat are open. Place your bets, place your channel points on the line for who you believe will take this series. Will it be ShoWTimE or GuMiho? ShoWTimE was expressing his confidence initially, how he would often defeat ShoWTimE pre-patch, but he was talking about how he was maybe a little bit nervous coming in with the new patch, with the new changes here to the matchup, so he was feeling a little bit nervous. Meanwhile, ShoWTimE talking about how sometimes he's lacking confidence when he shouldn't be. Sometimes that's something that he has to work on and improve upon himself. And yeah, is also having a bit of a shaky outlook on GuMiho, just because GuMiho is not an orthodox player. That's another thing to bear in mind. Like, we were talking about like the meta, we were talking about like certain openers and certain builds. The reality is that that doesn't really apply to GuMiho. GuMiho is a very unique player. I would have loved if they would have asked him a little bit about that. A more personalized question for GuMiho is that more often than not, he comes up with his own builds. He does come up with his own builds. He comes up with his own strategies. He can be very kind of out of the norm and very out of the blue, and I mean, that's why ShoWTimE mentioned in his interview that it is sometimes difficult to even know what the hell GuMiho is doing, even if you scout. So we'll see how that all plays out. For now, it's going to be interesting. A double gas opener out of GuMiho, so going to be a more aggressive style from him, going for a faster factory, a delayed CC. Meanwhile, ShoWTimE going for a standard build. Is going for a standard build here. Gate expand into the cybercore. Depth is on the way. And ShoWTimE should soon be expanding from here. We should be seeing a command center on the horizon. We have seen GuMiho go for one base all-ins in this matchup, but this is not going to be the case. Not in game one, as the CC is on the way. Reaper gets across the map, going to be poking in. Adept is in position, and the Reaper is going to try to bypass that Adept. Do dive into the main base. Stargate has been thrown down, but the Adept does catch up. The Reaper gets shut down, and GuMiho does not see the tech, does not know what is going on. Whether it's the Twilight Council or a Stargate or even a robo-based opener, GuMiho is in the dark. So, good start for ShoWTimE. Very good start here. Because of this, typically the Terran player will have to open up safely with a Cyclone just to be secure against what the hell could be coming up against him. From the side of ShoWTimE, this could be a Phoenix opener or an Oracle-based opener. Because it's ShoWTimE, I expect to see Phoenixes. I expect Phoenix Colossus more often than not in this series. And there it is, the first Phoenix is on the way. You can open up Oracle into a Twilight Council as a more aggressive style, or we can of course see Blink-based openers as well. But ShoWTimE has a reputation, and we touched on this throughout the course of the interviews here, how ShoWTimE plays very macro, very standard, doesn't really deviate too much, doesn't go for many all-ins, it doesn't go for many aggressive styles. So again, Phoenix Colossus is going to be the go-to for ShoWTimE. We'll see if he does mix it up. Speaking of Phoenix Colossus, the Robo is now on the way. Robo's in production for ShoWTimE. Phoenix gets across the map, slips into the main, gets eyes on the 111, gets eyes on that early tank production as well, and now GuMiho is aware of the opener. Now he's aware of the Phoenix. This tank isn't going to do too much. Typically, you would skip tanks if you're up against Stargate base play, and that's why you see the add-on swap, and now you see GuMiho going for Cyclones. As I mentioned before, tanks are really only made if you're up against Blink Stalkers, and now GuMiho has to make use of this tank in some way with threatening a drop. What I love here from GuMiho is that he's threatening a drop, he's keeping these Phoenixes busy, and he's keeping his bases safe as a result. Again, there's that add-on swap. We have Cyclones on the way, Liberator as well. This is wild. It looks like it looks like GuMiho is getting ready for a push. Like, this is a very aggressive setup here. He fakes out the Raven production. Let's go. Disable is revealed here to ShoWTimE. He has no idea that the Liberator is being produced instead. And this is the downside of Phoenix Colossus, is that Phoenix Colossus is really solid in the mid game and it allows you to have a really like secure kind of setup here against drop play, but it is vulnerable against frontal pushes. It is going to be vulnerable, and I say the upgrade is revealed, and it was revealed. Liberator, I believe, was not scattered. We are still investing into these Ravens, but the Lib has snuck out. Is moving out across the map, not moving out with the main army, and we are going for a third CC. So GuMiho is playing more macro oriented. The Bay is on the way. That's going to be for the eventual Colossus that we spoke about. Again, Phoenix Colossus, it's, again, the go-to, at least on side Delta for now in game one. We're still amassing up quite an army. There's more Cyclones on the way. And we'll see if GuMiho can make use of this. Meanwhile, the Liberator poised to dive into the main. Phoenixes have been revealed. GuMiho is now aware that they're on his side of the map, and that is going to be the green light for the Liberator. Because he knows the Phoenixes are out of position, we can go straight for the main base, straight for the mineral line. And we'll see how many probes we get. We'll be sieging up. Forcing some lost mine time. Probes are going to get one shot. So far, only one probe goes down. Good reaction out of ShoWTimE. Does warp in. GuMiho repositioning, denying any gas mining as well. And the Phoenixes, they're forced to race back home. And now GuMiho can push. Does he, though? Now he knows that the Phoenixes are back at home. They're not on his side of the map. And we're playing mech. Let's go. Oh my god. You rarely see mech against Protoss. And we have 3 more factories on the way. We have our upgrades on the horizon as well. That is the new Cyclone upgrade. It's called, not Magfield Accelerators, that was the old one. Hurricane Engines, that's it. Hurricane Engines in production here for GuMiho. There's a reason why he was making so many of those Cyclones, because we're meching it up. And this is what we spoke about how you can practice PvT in preparation for this tournament, but you're never practicing PV GuMiho. Like, that's not happening. No one else plays quite like GuMiho in the world. A couple of SCVs going to be going down. Cyclones do shoot them away. And GuMiho is getting ready for his move out. He's expanding behind this. Going to be threatening the third base. Meanwhile, we just see ShoWTimE continuing with his Phoenix production, getting into his Prism as well so he can reinforce, so we can maybe even harass across the map. And we'll see if GuMiho can catch out these Phoenixes. For now, he's just establishing his third base. Has yet to pull the trigger. Instead, ShoWTimE's the one moving out. Okay, this is going to be an interesting... What I'm concerned about here is that we're making tanks. We're making 2 tanks at a time at the moment, alongside Hellions. We're going to have barely enough tanks here in time to defend. They're going to be able to siege up. Of course, the Phoenixes can try to pick them up. They can, of course, shut them down. Let's see. As the Prism has arrived, ShoWTimE going to be reinforcing on the front lines. The tanks are going to siege in time. We haven't spotted the army. Here we go, the tanks. They are late to siege. Phoenixes, they come in, they lift up every single tank, but we have the disables. We disable the Colossus. Cyclones doing what they can. Liberators, all the tanks, they do land, but they get lifted up immediately. And the disables are running out. The Colossus, they break on through the defensive line. Boys are being pulled. But ShoWTimE, it looks like he will break through. There's not enough. GG gets called, and before GuMiho can get into his mech, ShoWTimE takes game number 1. Whew. GG. Again, GuMiho did not spot the move out. GuMiho did not see the main army. Because of that, if you remember, if you saw, GuMiho, he had all 3 tanks unsieged on the low ground in between his natural and his third base. That was the worst position for GuMiho and the best moment for ShoWTimE to push in. So GuMiho gets caught out. The tanks, they do nothing in the defense, and ShoWTimE takes a lead. Whew. Oh my god, that was that was a very interesting game. Again, I feel a little bit robbed because I would have loved to have seen the mid game of GuMiho versus ShoWTimE with mech. That would have been very interesting. But at the same time, we saw that there was a bit of a window, there was a vulnerability there for GuMiho. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure ShoWTimE didn't even know what he was pushing into. I'm pretty sure he dipped forward, he saw the opportunity, he saw the unsieged tank, so he just went for it. And I'm not entirely certain that he even knew that it was going to be mech on the way, of all things, from GuMiho. As I mentioned before, I don't know how you would be able to accurately read that, but it was a strong timing nonetheless with those initial Colossus, with those Phoenixes, and really good micro, of course, from ShoWTimE. Immediately lifting up every single tank and making sure that they weren't able to engage in the fight whatsoever. So very nicely done. With that, ShoWTimE takes the lead in the series, and now we're going to be soon getting ready for that second game. Just going over some of those highlights here of the match. Now, when it comes to mech in TVP, do I expect to see it again? I do if we get an extended series. Like, if we get it back and forth, and if we end up like 2-1 or something like that, or if GuMiho finds himself in the lead, I do see him trying to go mech again, but I do also feel like it's very map-oriented. I imagine larger maps are what you want to be going for, maps like Alcyone or Post-Youth, but Post-Youth was vetoed, if you remember, and this is, of course, the final fight. The tanks, yeah, they would just continue to be lifted up over and over again. The Cyclones are lifted as well. And eventually, once the Disable ran out, the Colossus, they reign supreme. Very decisive fight there from ShoWTimE. But yeah, I don't expect to see kind of this mech style again unless we end up on another larger map here. And Post-Youth was vetoed, so that's not going to be an option for GuMiho if you wanted to embrace that again. So I'm curious. I am curious. Ooh, oh boy. And I feel like this kind of sets the tone as well. Like, again, this also shows that GuMiho is willing to do anything. We have seen GuMiho in this matchup go proxy BC as well, if you remember. That was back on Data C. That was like, what, 2 map pools ago? But we've seen GuMiho whip out like proxy Battle Cruiser, go proxy 111, in the TVP matchup, mech of course. And even different forms of mech going and committing into Master Cloak Banshee. Oh boy, so I'm ready. In reality, this isn't a TVP, this is a GuMiho versus Protoss. Ah, Gibbs. Game 2 is going to be on Oceanborn. Oh boy. Rushes as my ground on Oceanborn is, I believe, a little bit shorter compared to Side Delta. But our 3-base setup is more defendable. Unlike Side Delta, where you have that kind of low ground area in between your natural and your third, that doesn't exist on Oceanborn. It's on the high ground instead, so Oceanborn is more defendable on 3 bases. In a sense. I mean, there's a give and take, right? Oceanborn also has that kind of point of elevation in the center of the map, so you can all in at the third a lot easier. Just, you can't quite abuse that central location as much as you can on Side Delta. Central location between the natural and the third. But here we go. Looks like our lobby is being set up, and we're getting ready for game number 2. Here we go. Until then, again, I was also really shocked to see how many sponsors there are. You can see them in-game every now and then. We have a long list of them, and here we go. In the top left-hand corner, we have ShoWTimE leading the series 1-0 for Big. And in the bottom right, we have his opponent, we have GuMiho for Cloud9. Looking to fight back, looking to tie up the series. The pressure is now on GuMiho. He's got his towel ready, he's got his heat pack. Getting in the zone. Do we see mech again so soon? I'm not so sure. But I mean, we'll see. Why not do it 2 games in a row, right? That's the last thing ShoWTimE's going to be expecting. True. Do it again, Pappy. Do it again. Till then, we just see ShoWTimE actually just scouting his 3rd base location. He's checking for a proxy before moving out across the map. So ShoWTimE just being as safe as possible. Again, I don't blame him. GuMiho is not above cheesing and proxying here against ShoWTimE. Would not be surprised if he does that at some point in the series. ShoWTimE is aware, so just being safe. Herb is going to be slipping in. GuMiho does respond for a moment there with that SCV. And once again, GuMiho going for a double gas opener. Going double gas, which means he's going for a factory. Now with this depot wall off here, ShoWTimE is going to be in the dark. For all ShoWTimE knows, there could be a CC on the high ground. We can see that that's not going to be the case. It's going to be a factory. Speaking of factory, is going to be revealed here, so ShoWTimE is aware. Is not going to be aware of what's going on. Again, really good of ShoWTimE to get extra DPS on that SCV. So he was able to force the SCV out and force the depot to land. Or to borrow. Unload? You know what I mean. As we do see ShoWTimE backing off. And I'm curious to see if ShoWTimE does mix up his own opener, right? I mentioned earlier how because of ShoWTimE's reputation, because of his style, part of me wouldn't be surprised if he goes Phoenix every single game, but we do mix it up. Let's go. Twilight Council instead. Twilight Council on the low ground, by the way. A more unusual location for the tech, but the idea is that we can keep it hidden a little bit longer. And we'll see as GuMiho does dance with those adepts. For now, he's going to be zoned away. And based on the positioning of these adepts, we should be able to defend. Reaper does knock it into the natural. GuMiho yet to confirm the tech. He's forced back and he's going 3cc. Let's go. That's a natural base on location. We have a third CC in the main base. Very greedy build here from GuMiho. And now I'm getting a little bit concerned. Blink Stalker based openers here, these Twilight Council openers from ShoWTimE can be more aggressive. If we throw down a third gateway, if we throw down a fourth gateway, then ShoWTimE can punish the greed of GuMiho. So we'll keep an eye on the gateway count. I believe we're only working on 2 gates for the time being, so it's just 2-gate blink. This could just be 2-gate blink into a third, which is a safer economic variation of blink builds that ShoWTimE could be going for. If he throws down additional gateways, he can punish GuMiho. Cyclones are on the way. Again, he still doesn't know if it's Stargate or not, so Cyclones make sense to defend against potentially Phoenixes. And there it is, third gateway gets thrown down. I believe that's the third gate, not the fourth. And with 3-gate aggression, ShoWTimE is going to be gaining map control, is going to be applying some pressure. Okay. Now we should still be taking a third. Third base should still be on the horizon. It is not all in by any means. Meanwhile, GuMiho committed here 2 additional Cyclones. Third base about to be thrown down for ShoWTimE. And ShoWTimE hasn't seen much across the map. He's still unaware of how greedy GuMiho has been. Doesn't know that he could even be punishing anything. And GuMiho is still making more Cyclones. This is so weird. Like, these Cyclone-based builds in TVP, they died in the new patch. People don't do them anymore. Like, Maru, Clem, Beyond, they used to embrace this a lot more. But in modern day, like these past couple of months, they have not touched this build and not touched this opener, but GuMiho is embracing it instead. And he's doing it again! Factories are on the way. He's playing mech! He wants to believe. Okay. Show us what you got. It's gonna be mech versus Protoss 2 games in a row. Okay. Now, what's important is that ShoWTimE, he opened up Blink, and we don't see a bait. That is Charge now on the way. There is not going to be like a big, strong timing with Colossus the way that there was before, with Colossus and Immortals. Robot production from ShoWTimE is going to be heavily delayed this time, which means potentially GuMiho can actually get into the mid-game. Mass Cyclone has been revealed. Now ShoWTimE has spotted the main army. Observers are moving out. So on the one hand, there's maybe a greater chance for GuMiho to stabilize and get into his 3-base setup. On the flip side, though, Immortal production has begun. I think he's aware. And Charge, I love Charge for ShoWTimE as well. Like, Charge Lot's Immortal Archon can annihilate mech-based armies. There's a reason why mech is not common in this matchup, just because it can be shut down quite hard with certain Protoss compositions, like Charge Lots, like Immortal production as well. Now, I don't think ShoWTimE's fully aware yet, otherwise we would see a second robo. I feel like we would want to try to like take extra gases and prioritize like Immortal production. For now, though, we're just going to be reinforcing with more Charge Lots, potentially working on a 4th base. Stalker's yet to move out. Once again, we have Hurricane engines on the way. We have Blue Flame, armories, upgrades for the mech army. Currently for the battle mech, we only have a handful of tanks. Liberator's going to be on the way. And there we go. We're making 2 tanks at a time. Now we are content with the amount of Cyclones we have. Ooh, and there was the Observer at the natural, actually, which means ShoWTimE, he's been spotting the army. He knows the composition. He has been spotting the army as it comes down from the ramp. Hallucination confirms that the Rex is floating. We'll get eyes on the tank, the bases, everything. ShoWTimE is getting a 4th. He now continues Immortal production. And again, upon seeing this, we'll see if he does take up into Archons, if he throws down a second Robo. He's getting towards the natural. I love this as well. ShoWTimE is moving out. He's being active, getting ready for a Zealot run by or a Zealot drop towards the south. GuMiho hunkering down at his 3rd base. Yeah, the difference here is that, of course, this time GuMiho isn't being caught out. This time he's intentionally fortifying himself on 3 bases. Cyclones into the main base. The Prism is going to be forced back. It goes down! Oh, bit of miscontrol there by ShoWTimE. He pulls back in, and the Prism does fall. And as time goes by, that tank count is becoming terrifying. I'm not so certain we can really push into that anymore. Liberator's going to be moving out. They are spotted by ShoWTimE. He's going to be responding with his Stalkers. Temple Archives is on the way, so he's working towards Archon production. We're getting there. Towards Chargeal Archon Immortal. Now, once we can take the 4th base, once we can take extra gases, that's when we should be working towards another Robo. Until then, though, we're still saturating. There we go. Gases are being taken. Liberator is not quite finding much damage yet, but here comes GuMiho's move out. He's going to be pushing, and he's got a lot of tanks. We'll see how it all comes together. Liberators, they join up with the main army as well. They both survived. I would say we have 8 or 9 tanks. Jesus. Plus those 4 libs. We'll see if we can get up this ramp. At the same time, ShoWTimE trying to keep up with those rotations. Keeping up with the main army. He's spotted. Here comes that freedom. Yeah, Liberation Zone's thrown down. GuMiho is maxed out. Hellbat's being morphed in. When we're bullying back ShoWTimE. At this point, he can't really engage. Not when GuMiho's set up like this. Yeah, Liberation Zones have been thrown down. The mass tanks sieging up as well. You can see ShoWTimE is getting ready for a full surround. Well, that's where the Hellbats come into play. They have to protect these tanks from those Zealots. From the charge. Tank volley is going up, and here we go. GuMiho, he goes for the surround. He goes for it. Does pull the trigger. Disables on the Immortals. Let's go. Oh my god. The Immortals are disabled. The tank volley is going off here on the army. Stalker's going down. Zealots as well. The Immortals, they do nothing. And GuMiho, he's breaking through. Yeah, there's just not enough here. This is the power of mech. Honestly, those are some beautiful disables out of GuMiho. Again, the Immortals were the key factor for ShoWTimE to focus down those tanks, but they were just, yeah, rendered inert there by those Ravens. And now we're on top of the 3rd base. The next is going to be going down. ShoWTimE is going for a desperation counterattack, but ShoWTimE barely has an army. He barely has an army to work with. It's too little too late. He's got 1 Immortal, got 5 Stalkers, a handful of Zealots, 4 Stalkers even. He's amassing reinforcements in his main, and GuMiho's on 4 bases. He's on a 4-base setup. 169 supply. Nice. And from here, GuMiho should be pushing towards the natural. He's going to deny the 4th base first, so GuMiho is going for a secure kill. Not rushing into it. Meanwhile, here we go. ShoWTimE collapsing on the army. And we do get on top of the tanks. Another disable on the Immortals. But it looks like GuMiho is going to be cleaned up. Oh, barely. Oh god, this is a brutal trade. GG gets called. The tanks go down, but it was a brutal trade, and GuMiho ties up the series 1-1. GG. GG, well played. Again, GuMiho adjusting compared to game 1. If you remember, this time GuMiho was preemptively set up. You know, he was set up at his 3rd base, he was set up at his natural, he was ready to receive any kind of attack and build up on 3 bases before he did commit to his push, so he wouldn't be caught out this time. Because of that, ShoWTimE just couldn't really find a way in. He couldn't really find any kind of weak point in the armor of GuMiho. And when it came to the eventual engagement, I do think that ShoWTimE maybe could have been a little bit greedier early on. To be fair, it did take a while for him to confirm the mech, and because of that, like, you don't know how greedy you can be. This is not a standard style from GuMiho, so how much practice does ShoWTimE really have with this? How much greed can he get away with, and does he know how much greed he can get away with? And how many corners he can cut? That's the problem here with playing against GuMiho, is that GuMiho is kind of like well rehearsed in this style, and ShoWTimE isn't. So there are certain like nuances and kind of intricacies that are a little bit less obvious when you're in the moment in the game, when you're facing off against that for the first time. So GG, well played. We have a series. We have a back and forth. Let's go. How do you get maxed out on mech in 10 minutes? If you remember, it was a 3cc opener. Winding it back, the reason why this hit as hard as it did, as we're going over the replays, or the highlights, if you remember, it was a third CC before Starport. It was a very greedy opener out of GuMiho. And if you remember, we were talking about how GuMiho could have been punished by ShoWTimE if ShoWTimE had realized what was happening and if he had gone for 4-gate blink. ShoWTimE went 3-gate blink, but if you remember, he wasn't being active with his stalkers. He was intentionally delaying warp-ins. He was being more defensive with it instead. Because of that, GuMiho did get away with a lot in the early game. So again, it was a fast third CC, just as a reminder, which is why it did hit as hard as it did. There's a lot that came into it. Can tell ShoWTimE is a pro. I'm not, because I would absolutely not be able to resist jumping on a big ball of unsieged mech like that. Aye, aye, aye. That's what Strange is doing this day with hallucinations. Okay, interesting, interesting. Very interesting. As we're getting ready for game number 3 again, we have a back and forth. If he opens up aggressively, it's a bit of a gamble, like when it comes to like trying to punish your opponents, especially if you're not fully aware if they can be punished. It's just one of those things where I don't know how because of like how ShoWTimE plays, I don't know how practiced he is with something like 4-gate blink. Like, I don't know if he enjoys that. I don't know if he is willing to play it. At the end of the day, these two players are very stylistic, and that kind of leans towards certain play styles more than anything. Couldn't lie. We'll see, though. We shall see. And again, thankfully, because we're tied up 1-1, we're going to be seeing at least another game after this as well. Amphion is on the horizon. Alcyone is going to be the ace match. The ace map if we do get there. And here we go. Go. Shout out to the production team as well. I mean, their stage and their setup looks pretty good. Does look good. I still want to see what the VIP area looks like. Like all those couches in front. Looks comfy. Looks very comfy. We shall see. Also, I just realized, yo, ShoWTimE, he's flexing there. Let's zoom in a little bit. You can see he's actually flexing his muscles on the left on the left hand side. He's swole, Papi. Let's go. It's chiseled. Oh my god. Meanwhile, GuMiho, full of swagger. I didn't notice when he was walking on stage, but here we go, diving into our next game. In the bottom left, we have ShoWTimE for Berlin International Gaming. And in the top right, we have for Cloud9, GuMiho. GuMiho flexes his braid, but you can't see it through his haircut. Oh, he disguises it, Pat. Let's go. See in the chat, are siege tanks that OP? I mean, we saw that the tanks were eventually cleaned up there towards the end, but like you do need a good way to dive and engage on those tanks just because there were so many of them. It was just a brutal position to push into. We saw that ShoWTimE's answers to all those tanks was meant to be all those immortals, but yeah, GuMiho just did a great job at dealing with that problem with those immortals, making sure they weren't going to be the answer that ShoWTimE was hoping for. For now, we're settling in. As I mentioned before, when it comes to Crimson Court, there is a mineral wall here towards the northern side, or towards the linear third base, I should say, where you can mine through these minerals and you gain access to a much more secure third base location. Does require some setup. Likewise, you can take the center third base, which has a wrist-resting gas geyser. With that, you can set up for an all-in and be a little bit more aggressive against your opponents. It's typically taken by Zerg players, for example, in this map. I don't expect that to be taken here, but I mean, GuMiho can do anything, clearly. can and will. For now, we do see another double gas opener out of GuMiho going for the fast factory. Reactor is on the way, I imagine, for the add-on swap. And we'll see if we go for early cyclone production. Or if we go for something different. You know, we could go into a wood mine based opener, Reaper Hellion, for example. We do have options. Meanwhile, the Reaper is going to be zoned away. Once again, GuMiho is not going to be able to scout the tech. It's going to be a Stargate opener here from ShoWTimE, so he is not going Blink. Not of any kind. Now with this Stargate, he could still go into an Oracle opener instead to harass across the map. But because it's ShoWTimE, it's possible that he just wants to settle back into his own playstyle, just get into his comfort zone. I mean, he won game 1 with Phoenix Colossus. May as well fall back on that here in game 3. And there it is. Phoenixes are now in production. And GuMiho has yet to determine this. He is yet to determine that it is Mass Phoenix, or that it's going to be a Phoenix opener. Back at home, GuMiho getting into his natural, working towards his 1-1-1. Reactored Marines, safety Cyclones in case it is Phoenix, so we have some kind of anti-air. Oh, and that defense now turning into offense with the medevac on the way. And that is a fast Twilight Council. Very interesting. This is looking like Phoenix Charge. Again, Phoenix Colossus is one composition, but Phoenix Charge Lots is another here. With that Twilight Council, it shouldn't be Blink. Usually you don't go for both. Blink Stalkers and Phoenixes, they have a very similar role in the Protoss army. So one is typically chosen, but I'm feeling Charge Lots with this, and against a more mech army, I like that. Speaking of, the first tank is on the way. So very fast tank production here from GuMiho. Cyclones, will they almost catch a Phoenix? They do get a bit of hull damage done. There's that charge on the way, as we mentioned. Again, Phoenix Charge is another viable composition. I do like what it can bring to the table, but a Phoenix goes down. A Phoenix does fall. The drop makes it into the main base. The Marines unload the Cyclones as well. And charge is nowhere near being done, by the way. We're in trouble. The boys have to be pulled. ShoWTimE is vulnerable right now. Good target firing here on the probes. 3 probes go down. And we barely do not get the Phoenix. Whew. Good control here from ShoWTimE. Does save it. Likewise, GuMiho pulls back with those Cyclones. And ShoWTimE holds. ShoWTimE does hold. That was a pretty rough position. That was terrifying. Very tense. But does make it out. Minimizes his worker losses. Charge is now finishing. Zealots are amassing. You know, GuMiho is still being active. Still being as active as possible. And then we get a Phoenix. And one Phoenix goes down, but finally GuMiho is going to be chased back. Should be losing everything here. Even the medevac. Meanwhile, ShoWTimE getting into his third. More charge lots are on the way. And GuMiho's playing Bio this time. Let's go. That is 2 more Raxes, not factories. So it's going to be Bio tank here from GuMiho. Charge lots are pushing out. Now, charge lots, they can do a great job when it comes to engaging the army out on the map. But pushing into an entrenched position is going to be that much more difficult. The tanks are on siege, though. Oh, the tanks are on siege. Big moment here for ShoWTimE. And there are no medevacs. Tanks are going down one after the other. GuMiho once again caught with his pants down. I'm getting deja vu from game number 1. Yeah, tanks are falling left and right. Vikings forced to land. 14 SCVs go down. This is becoming too much. This is critical damage. Again, it looks like GuMiho had no idea that charge lots were amassing. And that was a brutal fight. GuMiho now down in workers, down in economy. ShoWTimE getting a scout to the main base. ShoWTimE confirms that it is not mech, that it is bio. Again, if GuMiho knew what was coming, he would have been pre-siege, would have seen bunkers, more importantly, in front of those tanks. Any kind of Sim City would have been amazing. But the natural was completely wide open. And now ShoWTimE takes the lead. ShoWTimE takes the lead. He's getting his third base up and running. We're working towards the bay. That's going to be for Colossus and Disruptors. Like, now he knows it's bio, so he needs some kind of splash damage here for those Marines. And GuMiho has some recovering to do. GuMiho, he has some catching up to do here. These Vikings were trying to catch out any kind of stray units. We bleed out a Viking. And we are contained to 2 bases. Meanwhile, ShoWTimE taking a 4th before GuMiho takes a 3rd. I mean, that just goes to show how far ahead ShoWTimE is. He's up almost 20 workers. Colossus are on the way. Thankfully for GuMiho, the Vikings will help with that, with both Colossus and Phoenixes. Here we get the scan into the natural. And they get a read on things. We do get eyes on the robo. I don't think we saw the bay, but we can see the robo producing nonetheless. GuMiho trying to be active with these Vikings. He has to be careful not to throw them away. We spoke about it. Because we're amassing Colossus, these Vikings are actually going to be very important when it comes to the main fight. But it looks like GuMiho is going for Viking Harass instead. He's pushing in towards that 3rd. He is spotted. He's going to be spotted here. Meanwhile, we dive on those Phoenixes. 1, 2 Phoenixes go down. Pretty good move so far. GuMiho does not lose a Viking. Very nicely done. GuMiho retreats. He's getting his 3rd base finally up and running. Meanwhile, ShoWTimE just refining his army, working towards +1. Blink, Templar Archives, Archon production, Storm as well. It's all going to be available. And ShoWTimE still maintains an army lead. Basically, we're waiting for either ShoWTimE to take a bad fight into GuMiho pre-sieged, or maybe drop play from GuMiho, maybe just turtling up and trying to max out that way. Again, there's like a lot of pressure on GuMiho to somehow take a lead or somehow bounce back. There's that drop play that we spoke about. Double drop towards the left-hand side. The observer positioning is going to spot any kind of frontal push. He's still being active. See ShoWTimE just opening up a couple of avenues of attack here as he's still maxing out. Basically, ShoWTimE is waiting for his prism. The war prism is now being made, and once it's done, ShoWTimE can reinforce. And he can push. As he moves out, we see GuMiho slipping in from behind. Headed for that natural, or headed for that center base. ShoWTimE does keep up. So GuMiho, he can threaten a backstab with these medevacs. Widow mines are being shut down. Nice snipe on the observer. ShoWTimE pushing in. And we have a decent spread here from GuMiho, at the same time dropping across the map. Vikings don't quite get the Colossus. A lot of Vikings go down. Blink is done. We get a full medevac as well. Oof. A brutal pick up. GuMiho bleeding out a lot, and now here we go. We go for the kill. We go for the 3rd base. Tanks on low ground are going to be going down. We do have 3 tanks on the high ground, though. They're going to be lifted. One of them at least going to stay in the air. The other going ham on the ground army, but ShoWTimE is still breaking through. We have reinforcements. We have that war prism. We're busting into the natural. SCVs are being pulled. And they're going down to the Archons, to the Colossus. 20 SCVs fall. There's still that 1 tank on the high ground, but GG gets called. It's not going to be enough. And ShoWTimE takes a 2-1 lead. GG. Again, a solid build there from ShoWTimE, winding it back. Remember, it was a Phoenix opener into charge lots, and GuMiho had no idea that it was going to be a charge lot follow-up. He was ready for Phoenixes, but not ready for what comes next. As a result, there was a big moment, a crucial moment, and we should be seeing it with the highlights, with the instant replay here. We should be seeing the moment when ShoWTimE pushed into the natural and GuMiho had all 3 tanks unsieged. He had all 3 tanks on the low ground, unsieged, had a 3rd CC on the way, and he had no idea an army was coming, and he was caught out. GuMiho was caught with his pants down, and in that moment, ShoWTimE secured himself. There was opportunities and maybe a couple of chances here and there where GuMiho could maybe bounce back, but he was also relying on ShoWTimE to make mistakes. He was relying on ShoWTimE to slip up, and clearly ShoWTimE is too good for that. Was far more safe and secure and able to close it out in the end. GG, well played. ShoWTimE is now 1 game away from winning the entire series. GuMiho has to fight back here and now to force the ace match. Oh boy. I believe the next game is going to be on Amphion, if I remember correctly. It's going to be Amphion followed by Alcyone. Oh boy. And Amphion is an interesting one. Similar to Crimson Court, there is a bit of a more secure base that you can take as well at the triangular 3rd location and start expanding towards your opponent. As we do get the replay here. This is the initial opener when GuMiho tried to dive into the main base. This is when he got zoned away, and ShoWTimE only lost 3 probes. Only 3 probes went down in this defense. It was a very impressive defense here from ShoWTimE, and he also kept his tech hidden. As GuMiho was forced out of the main, he did not see that there was a Twilight Council researching behind it. And coming up should be the moment when we push into the natural, as that's when the drop was shut down, which again reduces any kind of scouting information. Yeah, and here it is. Here is that push that we spoke about with 3 tanks unsieged on the low ground. And this is the moment when ShoWTimE was able to just snowball out of control, shutting down every single tank and killing so many SCVs here at the natural. Aye, aye, aye. That was all 3 tanks. That was 14 workers. From there, ShoWTimE just had to make sure that he didn't make any major mistakes, any major slip-ups. Solid game. And with that, we're going to be getting ready for our next game, our next setup. Again, hold on. What were the predictions looking like for this series? Oh, it was 50-50. Okay. 51% in favor of ShoWTimE, 49% in favor of GuMiho. Very close there with the predictions in the chat. I mean, again, personally, I would love to see an ace match between these two. I would love to see that ace, but it's on GuMiho now. Is on GuMiho. Done with that mech instead. For now, there we go. We can see our map score setup. Again, Amphion going to be coming up next. Lobby is being made. ShoWTimE, one of us, one more game and he will make it into the semifinals. As a reminder, Maru is waiting for the winner of this series. It's going to be Maru up against either ShoWTimE or GuMiho. But that match is going to be tomorrow. The match is going to take place tomorrow. We're focusing on the quarterfinals here tonight. Now focusing on those quarterfinals. Oh. Are just setting up. Again, I can all I want is an ace match, Papi. That's all I want. Can we get it? Can we get there? Oh, can I? Let's go. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Amphion, we have Our German Protoss player representing big, it is ShoWTimE. And in the bottom left, we have his opponent from South Korea, GuMiho, for Cloud9. Let's go. Again, ShoWTimE with a pretty substantial lead here. One more game is all he needs. And ShoWTimE going for a proxy pylon. Oh my god, this I was not expecting. GuMiho is going for a fake proxy Rax, by the way, but ShoWTimE is going for a real pylon, which is yet to be revealed here by Observer. There it is. Pylon is done. Gateway is on the way. Oh boy. This is going to be an interesting one. Now, the Probe Scout is coming in, and ShoWTimE is going to see the lack of Rax. He's going to see the Rax is missing. We can see that the Rax, the proxy is a fake out, and will he check? He checks! He checks, he confirms, he gets eyes on the Rax. He will not be deceived. ShoWTimE is aware of what's going on, is going to force out a second SCV down to the low ground. We can see ShoWTimE doing a great job here, just being a massive annoyance here, delaying that Rax for as long as possible, forcing inefficient mining here out of GuMiho as a third SCV comes down from the high ground as well. And the Rax will finish. Gateway's going to be finishing up. Probe is going to fall back. Now, this is going to be an interesting game state. Now, on the one hand, I believe there is no gateway back at home. There is no gateway at home, which means when the Reaper arrives, the Reaper can go to town. On the flip side, if the Reaper moves out, the Zell can move in, and likewise, ShoWTimE can get damage done instead. So, ideally, the Zell should force the Reaper to come back home, and ShoWTimE should be safe at home as a result. We'll see if that's going to be the case, as things are about to get chaotic. Reaper moves out, Zealot moves in. Factory is going to be delayed, and the Reaper commits. Yeah, boys are being pulled. The Zealot is going to be surrounded. The Zealot will eventually go down. At the same time, ShoWTimE has to fool the boys as well. And we get one probe kill. Meanwhile, 4 SCVs go down across the map, and we have another Zealot coming in. Another Zealot on the way. Oh, the wall is going to be disrupted. And we're going for a proxy. Wait, double robo? Wait, what? double proxy robo here from ShoWTimE. Can we afford the Immortal and the Prism? I'm assuming we're not going double Immortal. I'm assuming it's going to be Immortal Prism, but we'll see. As the Reaper is still going ham, the shield battery does finish. That's 5 probes going down. GuMiho does take an economic lead. And you can see there, ShoWTimE is sending a Stalker back home. And GuMiho scouts. GuMiho, he does scout, he does confirm the proxy robos. He is aware. Second pylon was thrown down, though, to keep everything powered. First Immortal's on the way. Reaper gets shut down. Reaper still across the map. The shield battery is running out of energy, by the way. ShoWTime's economy is still under fire. Yeah, there we go. It's going to be Immortal and the War Prism. Again, it's a little bit misaligned because of how many probes have fallen, and we get another 3. That's 8 workers going down in total. ShoWTimE down to 17 probes. Like, I understand that we're going for an all-in, but still, we need an economy. So this is looking a little bit rough for ShoWTimE. GuMiho, he's holding. I mean, we have a second bunker on the way. We have 2 Cyclones. We have a tank behind this. Boy's going to be pulled to repair. So far, so good for GuMiho. Going for the Viking as well. He's aware, of course, of the threat of the War Prism. War Prism has arrived. We can juggle into the main. So far, we're breaking the lock-ons. Viking getting a lot of damage done on that Prism. The Prism getting very low. Prism getting so low. Tank has arrived. With the arrival of this tank, we're holding. There's no breaking this yet. I say yet because ShoWTimE is going to have 3 Immortals. Third Immortal's on the way. As a reminder, the longer this goes on, the better it's going to be for GuMiho. As we get supply blocked. Now is not the time. Brutal supply block there. Immortal now in production. ShoWTimE going for his drop. He is spotted by that lid. Viking repositioning. Boys are being pulled. The tank is going to be focused out, but we get the Prism. The Prism goes down, and we should be able to clean this up. The first Immortal falls. The second Immortal. And we're chasing down the third. The Cyclone, it's on the hunt for that final Immortal. And can he get it? Oh, he does! He chases down the Immortal. It does go down. But you know what? We have more where that came from. We have 2 more Immortals on the way. We have the Prism on the way. Liberators moving out for a counterattack. ShoWTimE in a bit of trouble because that's not just a lib, that's a medevac drop as well. But there is a shield battery, there is an overcharge as well. True. GuMiho diving on that Stalker. There's not enough energy for the overcharge. And boys are being pulled, and it looks like boys are going down. GG gets called. ShoWTimE has nothing at home to defend. And GuMiho will tie up the series 2-2. We are going to the ace match. GG. Oh my god. GG, well played. Again, I liked the idea for ShoWTimE, but oh my god, GuMiho did such a great job at punishing ShoWTimE there. Winding it back. The Reaper was the MVP. The Reaper killed, it was like 7 or 8 probes on its own. Like it crippled the economy of ShoWTimE. That did delay the push. That was the reason why the first War Prism was late. If you remember, that second robot was just sitting there for a long time because we just didn't have the money for it. The money for that Prism. So it was delayed. It was a little bit lopsided as a result. The build, I mean. And with that, GuMiho was able to buy more time for his bunkers, for his tanks, for his Cyclones. And in the end, GuMiho was able to shut down the all-in. GG. We have an ace match. We're going to game 5. Do we have to show highlights? I want. Send us in, Papi. Send us into the game. But we are tied up. It all ends here. It all ends here. It all ends on Alkione. A very large map in the map pool. One of the larger, more macro-oriented maps in the map pool as well. A lot of bases to be taken. Really secure 3 and 4 base setup. If we wanted to play mech, this isn't a bad option. This is not a bad map for it. I bring this up if you're just tuning in now. You may not know that GuMiho has been playing mech throughout this series, both in Game 1 and in Game 2. With mixed success. Oh, let's go. We're not going through the highlights. Let's go. Give us the game. Game 5, man. Showing highlights. I stun. You need to calm down, Papi. You need to calm down. No one does a pose like Dark. That goatee with those muscles and the pose as well. Oh. I mean, the Dark pose is pretty good. It's pretty good, Papi. I'm going, wow, this is a pretty cursed build. I mean, I can see that build doing well, but if only it wasn't so disrupted by GuMiho, if only so many probes hadn't gone down, if only the economy wasn't struggling for ShoWTimE. It's that much more important for your economy to be crisp when going for an all-in because you have so little to work with. And in the end, we did hold. In the end, we are forcing game 5. Oh boy, this could go either way. I don't even know what kind of builds we're going to be seeing. I mean, for ShoWTimE to go for a cheese as well, like I should wind it back and put some emphasis on that because that was wild in and of itself. ShoWTimE known for his macro, more standard play, willing to spice it up against GuMiho. And here we go in the top right hand corner, we have ShoWTimE for Team Big. And in the bottom left, we have GuMiho for Cloud9. We go. Here we go, our TVP. It all ends here. It all ends on Game 5 on Alkione. Again, the amount of bases we have on this map, and just because of the map structure, the map layout, the defensive advantage that you have here on your 3 and 4 base setup as well, does mean that we get a lot of late game on this map. We get a lot of split map scenarios here on Alkione. So I'm curious if that's what we're going to be embracing here, or if we head in a different direction. Once again, double gas opener. Double gas opener out of GuMiho, going for a factory before CC. We have not seen a single Rax expand out of GuMiho this entire series. It's interesting because that's more standard amongst players like Xi'an, amongst players like Maru and Cure as well in this matchup, to be a little bit more economic, especially on some of these larger maps. we can see that GuMiho is avoiding that entirely. Wants to be more aggressive. Wants to be more in the face of his opponents. Is going for the Reaper first, followed by that Factory. Whether this goes into Reactor Reaper Hellion or into Cyclone production, yet to be determined. We have seen GuMiho embrace Cyclones quite a lot in this series, even in the games where he hasn't gone mech. He has gone for at least a couple of safety Cyclones early on. From side of ShoWTimE, we've seen a pretty wide breadth of play. We saw a lot of Phoenix play, true, a lot of Stargate into Phoenix. We did see 3-gate Blink earlier this series as well. We saw 3-gate Blink Stalker. Likewise, of course, the Cheese and the Proxy. What does ShoWTimE go for this time? Here we go. So Reaper is moving out across the map, trying to get a read on what's going on. GuMiho has been having a really hard time this series scouting the initial tech structure. And we can see it's going to be a Stargate. Meanwhile, ShoWTimE is in position. He denies the scout. The Reaper forced out of the main. And the Stargate is hidden. I mentioned before that Oracle openers are definitely viable in this matchup. And we see them from more aggressive players like Classic and Hero. I don't see ShoWTimE going Oracle. This should be a Phoenix opener instead. Should be. Meanwhile, we have eyes on GuMiho going for his add-ons. Reactoring at his Marines. Reaper does slip into the mineral line, but again, there is an adept in position. Hellion coming in from behind, but doesn't quite commit into the main. Ooh, the Reaper does go down. Good pick off by ShoWTimE. Denying some of that scouting information. GuMiho going for an earlier medevac, rushing into a tank, going for an earlier push, an earlier drop. Okay, so GuMiho wants to be in the face of his opponents. Against a Phoenix opener, I do like this. Let's see how this all comes together, as we're going to be going for the tank drop alongside all these Marines. And we can try to break into one of these bases, deny some mining at the natural. This drop is on the way. Meanwhile, we do see ShoWTimE getting into his Robo, soon to be Phoenix Colossus production, I imagine. That's where we're headed. We did dabble into Phoenix charge lots earlier, but I don't see that happening here on this larger map. GuMiho does spot the Phoenixes and is going to pull back, trying to catch them. Unable to, though. The drop is spotted. GuMiho pulls back. Respecting ShoWTimE quite a bit. Now he's spotted. He knows that he can't quite get as much done. He pulls back, consolidates his army, reinforcing with a second tank now. And there's that early Immortal production. There is the Robotics Bay on the way. So again, ShoWTimE is working towards Colossus, towards Phoenix Colossus as a unit composition. Pretty solid style. Meanwhile, GuMiho, he's still making tanks, by the way. Still just going tank Viking. Third CC on the low ground. It's part of the wall. Is being set up. And yeah, we're going to have a much more passive start here. I mean, sure, GuMiho started with a drop, but he pulled back. Didn't commit with it. So we're entering a bit of a more passive, longer game here. Which is more what we expected on this map. Third base soon to be taken. GuMiho is pushing through the center, is spotted by the Phoenixes. ShoWTimE getting in position, and as soon as GuMiho gets spotted, GuMiho pulls back. Once again, aware that ShoWTimE should have more than enough to defend. GuMiho, really more than anything, just puffing up his chest, trying to force an overreaction, and pulls back. So a bit of mind games going on. Mental battle ensuing here between ShoWTimE and GuMiho. GuMiho setting up defensively back at home. Phoenix is rolling in. And we're going to get an SCV in this flyby, but only one. now GuMiho will take his third. What I should say, though, that Jessica pointed out, which is very true, we have more gateways on the way. Where is the third base for ShoWTimE? It's very late, actually. I was focusing so much on the fact that GuMiho was macroing that it kind of slipped my mind that ShoWTimE has yet to expand, which should have happened quite some time ago. And with those 2 extra gateways on the way, ShoWTimE, is he just going for a 2-base all-in? The pylon left is finishing, so again, we are set up here. Working towards another one of these Colossus. Yeah, Prism's on the way. ShoWTimE, he's committed. We're pushing. Oh boy, okay, we're putting everything on the line here. ShoWTimE does not have a third behind this. He will not scale well into the mid game. He needs to get damage done. He needs to at least kill a base. Ideally, end the game. Scan at the natural. War Prism is still on the way. We need it to reinforce. ShoWTimE cutting workers at 45. That's 2-base saturation. He has not made a probe in quite some time. He's not going to main out over or anything like that. But this time GuMiho is ready. This time GuMiho is sieged up with everything. Pieces diving forward. We have Marines here to help support those tanks. Yeah, massive tank volley is going to be going off. We do lift up one, lift up a second tank as well. A third and the fourth tank. They all get lifted. Colossus breaking through. The Vikings trying to get on top of those Colossus. One goes down, but the other does stand strong. I say that we're running out of support. The Colossus, one more volley, and it does fall. No more Colossus, no more Robo units. GuMiho, he holds. He holds. GG gets called again. It was a 2-base all-in. It was all or nothing for ShoWTimE, and GuMiho was ready for it this time. He was prepared. He didn't just have his tank sieged up. He had a wall set up as well with those depots, his Marines in the back line. He holds. He takes the series. GG, well played. My condolences, ShoWTimE. It was an interesting build. Oh, let's go. GuMiho.
让我们把掌声送给GuMiho，恭喜GuMiho获得了这场比赛的胜利，再把掌声给
Playing with the crowd there. GG, well played. We're about to have an interview. Unfortunately, there's no English translations for our Korean interviews, but
那我们也是简单的来采访一下你
we'll let him
今天的
cook.
前2场的一个机械化是专门为ShoWTimE准备的吗？你是觉得机械化特别克制它的一个风格，还是什么原因？
오늘 1세트과 2세트 메카니크 사용했잖아요. 혹시 이거 쇼타임에게 특별한 준비한 거
If anyone can translate in the chat, we would appreciate it. Would appreciate it.
예전에도 메카닉으로 이긴 적이 있었고 좀 잘 통하는 것 같아서 준비했는데 사실 1경기도 이길 수 있었던 게임인데 충분히 제가 좀 놓치는 게 많아서 진 것 같아서 좀 아쉬웠어요.
他说那个平时就是他也经常使用这个机械化战术，赢的也比较多，但是他这次第一局那个输掉了，他觉得比较就是遗憾嘛。
确实，他平时确实是一个非常喜欢打机械化的选手。那你觉得 ShoWTimE 你的对手，他跟你平时一直会经常练習的韩国神族选手的风格会有什么不同吗？
쇼타임 선수의 같이 연습한 상대가 어떤 달라진 부분이가 있어요?
쇼타임 선수의 스타일이 제가 평소 연습하던 상대들이랑 비슷하진 않지만 좀 많이 VOD를 봐서 어떻게 할지는 대충 알고 있었습니다.
他说就是确实是他们有不同的地方，但是他就是也掌握了应对这个 ShoWTimE 的办法。
那最后2把其实对手都是使用了一个 rush 的战术，你当时有预想到他会用那么多 rush 战术吗？然后你当时是如何去应对的？
I didn't know. We did hear that they were talking about ShoWTimE's style of play there. That's all I heard.
1경기에서 졌던 1경기랑 일부러 비슷한 상황으로 가게끔 유도했고 그렇기 때문에 러쉬가 올 걸 알고 있었습니다.
他说那个情况和第一局的时候是基本上相似的，所以说他是想到了这一点。
还是提前有预判到，然后做的应对也非常的不错。那最后一个问题就是你接下来一轮要面对到的对手是马入选手，有没有信心？
다음 상대는 마루 선수이잖아요.
I heard Maru.
만나서 자신이 있으세요?
사실 이게 테란의 재앙이 2명 있는데 이제 세랄이랑 마루거든요. 그래서 솔직히 좀 무섭긴 하지만 이겨보도록 하겠습니다.
他说那个就是他能预想到的就是下一个对手是马如，然后他觉得他一定会无条件战胜马如。
哦，非常的有信心啊！期待你在明天的比赛里面呢有好的发挥。我们把掌声送给我们非常非常有信心的GuMiho选手吧。
GG, Papi GG.
好的，我们的赛后采访到这里告一段落，先把画面交给我们最专业的解说席。
I did hear he mentioned both Maru and Serral's name there. I think they were asking him about his upcoming series, and if he brought up Serral, he was probably talking about how Maru and Serral are probably like considered to be the best players in the world. So it's probably going to be a pretty interesting series, a very uphill battle here. But if he can bring Maru down, arguably Maru is the strongest player in the entire tournament, especially in the absence of Serral. So that would be a big moment for him if he can get that win. And in the TvT, he can. Like, GuMiho is a TvT specialist. That's something to bear in mind here, is that sure, like, I think a lot of people would agree that Maru is like the best Terran in the world, but in certain matchups, like, upsets can happen and he can be overwhelmed by, like, I don't know, a player like GuMiho, a player like Xi'an as well. There are some TvT snipers out there that can kind of bring their A game to the table and bring a player like Maru down. We'll see if that's going to be the case. We'll see if that will happen tomorrow. As tomorrow, we're going to be featuring Maru versus GuMiho. Until then, though, we are halfway through the night. Oh boy, we're 4 hours in. Sorry, 3.5 hours in, and we are halfway through the night. Let's go, Bobby, let's go. Up next is going to be a PvP between Firefly and Hero. Let's go. I'm very excited here for the PvP matchup. Again, Firefly has been on the up and up as of late. I say as of late. Over the past 2 years, we've been following the rise of Firefly, and he brings down the best of the best more and more consistently as time goes on. Meanwhile, even though Hero is the best Protoss in the world, or even he himself said that he's the best Protoss offline, even though he holds that title, Firefly has brought Hero down in the past. When it comes to these online weeklies, Firefly, he is a menace in the PvP matchup. He even forced Max back to the ace match in the finals of ESL Open Cup Americas, went all the way to Game 5 between Firefly and Max back. So Firefly, he has killer PvP. But something to bear in mind, something important here, is that this is, I think, one of the first times that Firefly is playing on a big stage like this. Like, Firefly is not the most experienced player on a main stage with a massive crowd that they have here for StarsWar 11. So that is where I'm a little bit concerned for Firefly. I'm a big Firefly fan, big fan of Firefly, but I also know that nerves can be a factor here. He did seem a little bit nervous when he was on stage earlier giving his initial interview. Did look a little bit nervous there. So that may be a factor, or maybe he can fight through those nerves. Regardless, it's going to be a really good learning experience for Firefly when it comes to getting used to the stage, getting used to the crowd, and being able to play at your best in like kind of a suboptimal environment sort of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. Likewise, or on the other side though, Hero is going to be the heavy favorite. Hero is, again, one of the best, if not the best Protoss in the world, and he's going to be looking to make a deep run here. Going to be looking to make a very, very deep run, but his first hurdle is not going to be an easy one. We're going to be going on a short break. Hopefully it's a short one. There's going to be a timer on the screen, and you can keep tabs on that. And when we come back, we will have Firefly versus Hero. It's going to be beautiful. See you soon. See you soon, Poppy. See you soon.